Russia continues to attack port towns like Mariupol in an attempt to gain access to some of those key locations. Joining us now is Brian Clark with the Center for Defense Contracts and Technology. Sir, we appreciate your time. I want to start by talking about this line of Russian ships in the Black Sea. This is your area of expertise. It's an unnerving image to see all of these ships out on Ukraine's southern coast. Mass evacuations in the port of Mariupol tonight. There are bodies in the street of that city. There you can see the ships. What concerns you most right now about Russia's military capabilities by land and also as we look by water?
Well, thanks, Marty, for having me on. My main concern is that the fact that Russia's got Ukraine in a vice right now, essentially. So in the Black Sea, it has more than a dozen ships, including submarines, that is used to essentially gain dominance in that waterway. The U.S. and other allied nations don't have any ships in the region anymore. So Russia has closed it off. At the same time, Russia is coming in from the north and from Crimea. So in places like Mariupol, they're being squeezed on all sides, from the sea and both from the east and the west as well as the north. So you have to evacuate civilians from these areas under the threat of Russian fire. They are being fired upon in some cases, evidently. So trying to get that humanitarian relief to them or get them out is going to be nearly impossible right now. As you can see from the map, the Russians have come in from three sides and are starting to squeeze the country towards the center, toward Kyiv and towards Dnipro and the other parts of eastern Ukraine. So my main concern is the naval forces and that the Russian Air Force is going to become resurgent. So the Russian Air Force hasn't been really brought to bear yet. It is now probably going to be brought in more intensively, and you're going to see a lot more bombing campaigns like we saw against civilian targets.
Stalled but not stopped. And in terms of the Air Force, the Pentagon says Poland's offer to give MiG-29 fighter jets to the U.S. To then be passed along to Ukraine is, quote, a non-tenable one, raises some serious concerns for the NATO allies. Explain the risk in a plan like that.
So what's being discussed right now is maybe a no-fly zone in Ukraine, where Ukraine would mount that no-fly zone protection using their own airplanes, which are MiG-29s, which are Russian-built. Poland has some of these. They could give to Ukraine to help augment their air force, but they would need to go essentially via NATO to get there. And so the concern on NATO's part is if they openly support this effort to get airplanes to Ukraine, are they entering the conflict? Will Russia attack Poland and other NATO allies? And then how can NATO allies support a no-fly zone in Western Ukraine, for example, without getting engaged in the conflict themselves and maybe fighting Russian forces directly? And so that's the concern about escalation. But on the part of the Ukrainians, they would desperately want to have that no-fly zone to limit the damage that Russia can do. Like we're seeing right here, a lot of this is starting to come from bombs from airplanes now, not just missiles.
In your mind, Brian, what are the most viable options for the U.S. and also the NATO allies right now to support Ukraine in the fight without provoking Russia or crossing what we know is a very dangerous line?
Well, I think the U.S. could do some more to provide more. Some of these aircraft could be provided to Ukraine. I think that's a relatively moderate risk operation to give these MiG-29s to Ukraine. I think there's some options in terms of electronic warfare that the U.S. could mount to try to degrade the ability of Russian forces to progress into Western Ukraine, to mess with their communications, jam those. And I think continuing to flow arms into Ukraine via land routes. Currently we're sending Javelin anti-tank missiles, Stinger anti-air missiles, which have been very effective in attacking those Russian armored columns, as well as attacking Russian helicopters, which have been largely removed from the airspace because of the threat of portable air defense systems.
You know, part of your deep knowledge is on wargaming, and it caught my attention reading about you today. There are written and unwritten rules of battle and of war. How does that apply to Russia's invasion of Ukraine right now?
So Russia has clearly decided to transition from just going after military targets and trying to topple the regime in a sort of decapitation attack by taking out the government, to moving against civilians in an effort to terrorize the civilian population and get them to pressure the government to turn over leadership to the Russians. So they've transitioned from that early phase where you just try to quickly get a quick win like the U.S. might have done in Iraq against Saddam Hussein, and move into just a terror campaign campaign against the civilian population where you attack civilian targets, you start to damage the infrastructure, take out power, attack nuclear power plants, for example. Those are all efforts to try to get the civilian population or just general sentiment to go against the government in Kiev and get them to turn over to the Russians just for the sake of the humanitarian crisis.
I know this is really difficult to predict, but I'm going to ask it anyways. How long can this type of ground fight continue? How long can the Ukrainian forces stymie and stall these Russian troops?
I suspect it could go on for weeks to months at this point because the Ukrainians have shown themselves to be pretty capable. They're being flowed capabilities that are usable by relatively untrained personnel, but they're very sophisticated and effective. So I think the Russians are going to continue to have problems getting control of the air over Ukraine, although they're going to try to improve that over the time. And they're going to continue to have difficulties flowing forces into the area because they have limited land routes and they're being attacked by these anti-tank weapons and anti-armored weapons. So it could go on for months as a protracted, essentially, insurgency.
And despite the damage we're seeing, Brian, so many impressed by the Ukrainian people's resilience and their military to fend off this attack. Brian Clark, appreciate your time and your insight. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie. Great to be here.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.